If we want to go to Goa, we can directly, get on a highway, right? Take a, single lane, and till we reach Goa, we, go into the same lane. Or otherwise, there is, we can take a detour, take some risk, do some, overtake, right? Take some breaks, ultimately reaching the destination, but probably with some richer experiences. So for me, it was always like that, I want to take an exploratory path.
You just have to connect those dots from what you have learned in the MBA classroom and then what exactly, you can relate upon the practical things.
And as somebody was saying, how think going back, we never realized all these things. We were naive, we were immature, or we were hardly thinkable about this thing. Why should we think? And it is good in a certain way. But at this time, at this juncture, we think that yes, this is how it is.
So I passed out in year 2013. So it was batch B14 in CAM's perspective. It's been around, more than 12 years I'm working. Before CAM's also I had 2 years of WorkX, and currently I'm working with Practice. It's a management consulting company, and my role is into the business development. So I largely work with owners and promoters driven businesses, and I sit with them and help them for the strategizing their business growth, profitability growth, enterprise valuation growth. So what about you, if you can?
Yes, thank you. You asked. So I'm sort of from batch 16. I was in Harihar campus, and I joined in 16. I came with one of my friend, which I know from earlier days, and I took core finance as my stream. I was in half year I was in Harihar, and then last 6 months we came to Pune. After passing out here, I joined Capital First, which eventually became a bank, IDFC First, as a management trainee. Overall, I have experience of 10 years, 7 years into sales, marketing, and 3 years into product management. So currently I am a senior lead into Bajaj Finserv Limited, senior lead for two-wheeler loans. So I take care for two-wheeler loans product department, product lead. It involves not only technical things but also the financial things of a product team. So I have a team of 11, and it's great part to reflect on my journey in coming year. What about you?
So I'm Prashant. So I'm from batch 19 of KMs. So I got passed out from 2018. So after that I had overall 7 years of experience. So initially I started my career through Sadhguru Travel and Tourism. So I went to Africa for 2 years. So that was my initial job. And I've been placed there from internal audit. So later on I came back to India. So I joined the same company as finance controller. So now I'm currently working with Accenture in the FP&A role for ventures and acquisitions. So as I said, I've started my career from Congo. I was in Africa for 2 years from the internal audit. So it gave me a wide exposure of how the finance works in the international business, because the country was new, the regulatories were new, and even there were different taxation structures and unpredictable regulatory changes that has been happening. So it was all sort of a new thing for me to adapt there in that country. So understanding the diversities and the work culture of the business was the biggest challenges for me. So from there I started my journey. I've understood the finance. I've leveraged that capacity of knowing each and everything in those countries. And then I came back to India, so as a finance controller. So that is where finance controller was a turning point for me, because finance controller is such a profile where I had to work closely with the leadership of the company, with the financial insights of the entire thing, and you have to strategize out the decisions for the business reasons. So yeah, that was an interesting experience with me, and now I am pivoting that profile in Accenture. So I'm into FP&A roles, closely working with the profitability of the projects acquisitions that has been acquired by Accenture. So it was a good journey. The holistic view of the finance has gave an impact on my career. How was your experience after the school?
So I'll go back, before even MBA college. So previous to MBA, I have 2 years of experience. So I've been through various domains and different industry. I've been into IT products and services, EdTech. I've been into consulting, right? So it's been a different journey. I took up different kinds of role. I was into the consulting, consulting on the real estate projects. So currently I'm into the business development. Journey is very, with rich of experiences. So I consider something like, when I try to get exposure across all, right? So initially, I used to think that it's a very, confusing, it's very, so while, I've been part of a tech, right? So tech gave me, capabilities to break down, larger problems into small solvable puzzles, right? While I was into the education, it gave me perspective and insights on how human emotion works, right? What is the motivation, how empathy works in the business situations, right? And of course consulting then helped me to connect the dots and then broaden my view and sharpen my strategic thought process. So yeah, it was a bit confusing. Every role and every transition was looking something very big puzzle, but everything was not very much planned. But ultimately I think this is a different richness of experience into different domain, and that is something I feel very useful now. It is something like if you want to go to Goa, we can directly get on a highway, right? Take a single lane, and till we reach Goa we go into the same lane. Or otherwise there is we can take a detour, take some risk, do some overtake, right? Take some breaks, ultimately reaching the destination, but probably with some richer experiences. So for me it was always like that, I want to take an exploratory path. Okay, why don't you share your experience?
So after passing out from this college, I got a placement with Capital First Limited. It was an NBFC which eventually got merged with IDFC Bank, and it became IDFC First Bank. See, I always wanted to work with a bank or in particular financial sector services because I also had an experience prior to my MBA of 2 years with HDFC Bank. So I always viewed, in fact in my college days, everybody knew that he'll be going into one of the bank, and probably with HDFC Bank, because everybody used to call me a banker because I was known for that things, because I had inclination toward that. So when I joined Capital First as an management trainee, this was into two-wheeler loan sales, and I was based out of Pune for 2 years. Then moved to Indore, got promoted after management trainee. I got promoted and went to Indore. Worked again there for 2 years, again got promoted. There was a time that when a merger was happening of Capital First and IDFC, and it was considered one of the biggest merger of that time. So we learned of change management, what we studied earlier, how organizations change, how people change, how bands and salary get revised and normalized, work cultures merge. So, and I was fortunate enough that I got promoted and selected into a department which was erstwhile IDFC Bank.
Okay.
So from Capital First, I went to IDFC Bank internally, but obvious, and I became a cluster manager and started working into again two-wheeler sales. At that time, I used to look for Chhattisgarh, and after looking for 4 years in the urban market, I went into core rural market, and core that to tier 4, 5 and 6 markets, or even 7 markets I used to look after. And it was a huge, humongous experience. Those scenery, those people and those experiences I have seen, which I used to take as a childhood. So 2 years in Chhattisgarh, again got promoted and came to again a urban market in Nagpur. All this was in IDFC First Bank. They gave me a lot, almost 7 to 8 years of experience in IDFC as a sales, which taught me about financial inclusion, risk assessment, data, decisions, long-term strategy, everything I learned there, customer centricity, how does it happen, how banking happens. And in those 8 years, I learned almost everything about. I consider myself fortunate enough that I was able to create my career path into the field which I always wanted to work for. And after 8 years, I got an excellent opportunity from Bajaj Finserv into a product team, where again I never thought that right from sales I'll become the product head, and it eventually happened. I joined Bajaj Finserv as a product lead for two-wheeler loans, wherein I leveraged all my experience, domain expertise of 8 years or say 10 years into a product role where I was managing a team of 10. Today I have a team of 10. At those times I was the only person in my department, and now we have a team of 10. And we have started working, launching product. Now we are a 4,000 crore AUM we are having now this. And it's a great learning and great organization to work for. You learn, and it's an era of Gen AI, it's tech, and it's been quite interesting journey. And when I reflect back, I suppose all those things which I am working now, bits and parts, we realized that all this was in this campus. Gen AI was somewhere here. We used to learn in libraries. Banking was here. Strategy management, PISR was there. Our faculty was there. PISR used to teach us strategic management. Atul Kulkarni sir was there. He used to teach us strategic financial management. All these things were here. We never realized that we'll be using. But it's quite a good journey at right.
Absolutely, just touching upon Gen AI. So even I also remember that, in the campus we were learning about these things are going to come or these things might come. But this is the reality now.
Reality now.
This is the reality.
You feel very connected and very this thing that we have been, and we belong to that generation of life where we have seen pre and post of everything. Pre-internet era, post-internet era, pre-COVID era, post-COVID era, pre-mobile era, pre-TV era. And this is where we reflect. And coming back to this campus also, we have seen how the rich culture is also booming, and we feel sometimes proud of.
I remember at times like when I used to, we used to get a large set of data which we used to practice to prepare reports in the MS Excel. So looking back right now, it seems like we were so immature. We do not know how to play with the data. We do not know how to play with the data. We do not know because nowadays business is all about multiple segments, multiple categorical multiple employees there. So there is a huge set of data. So we only have an access to the Excel. But now at the current situation, we know how to pivotize the data in respect to the technologies coming in, like Gen AI, like interface softwares like Microsoft Tableau and Power BI. So I think one of the biggest experiences that I could relate is integrating Microsoft Excel with Power BI. So it's not only about you play in the Excel with the data, it's about integration of the data, integration of MS Excel data with Power BI that gives you an overall, financial summary of how it can be tailored in the way you want it. So yeah, that was a crucial part which I would say. And even as he mentioned with Gen AI, so nowadays in terms of finance as well, machine learning is one of the things that is coming up, and RPA, robotic process or automation, so it is coming in. So it automatically forecasts the data. The forecasting and budgeting happens on it is. So it predicts the actual data flown for the previous years, and then it actually predicts the forecast that is being done. So these are the two things that actually.
In fact, related to RPA, I'll share a very small anecdote. In our product, what happens is when we finance a vehicle, it's RC details, registration details, we need to get from Vahan. There used to be a Vahan application. There used to be a time that this all used to happen manually. Now there's a bot which fetches details automatically. There's Gen AI which automatically matches and passes the document. And back in those days, as we were discussing regarding magazines and all, I still remember that my finance professor used to tell, banking professor Mr. Jay Krishnan, we were discussing about. He always used to tell, Saurabh, the future, if you want to work in financial services industry, always remember there's something called financial regulator. You'll always have to be very cautious about them. And I never realized what this thing is. He always used to push me, read about them. And currently in my present job, we have seen what RBI has done with multiple Paytm, with Bajaj also, with many companies, how they are curbing. And this is how it reflects that as a person, we have to catch very small things, little things which are happening around us, and how it can shape our career or make our career. And one thing more, while you were talking, I was remembering my internship days. So I did my internship with GM Financials in Bangalore. It was a period of 6 months and 3 months. And those months were like a roller coaster. And it was a huge thing back then, because internship was something that it was equal to gaining placements. And there was something called, if you're going to internship, what are you learning? See, you have done an internship. The best part was post internship. There used to be an interview and presentation which our alumni used to take. And our alumni has gone through our pace only. So he exactly knows what I have done in my internship, and he used to ask, and those were the days. I'm sure everybody will feel that all these things are preparing you for much bigger things in your life. Going to, like you said, you worked in Africa. All those things might have prepared you, made you pretty stronger to present yourself. Like in my profession also, in my this thing, being a product manager, sometimes it becomes very difficult to explain what as a product manager you do, because neither I'm doing sales, nor I'm doing banking, nor I'm doing operations, I'm doing nothing, but I'm just collaborating between this. And exactly what we have learned in our
Right. True. That gives a practical
stakeholder
orientation.
management, that's what.
Correct.
Learning with and maintaining, and amid all these things, maintaining your space and maintaining your identity. Correct. Among 180 people, everybody is trying to run a race. And although they are friends, but everybody has their own career. So I think it is all same, what we call circle of life. It comes around.
So I remember the situation like when I went to Africa. So as I said that it was a different market altogether. The dynamics were different, work cultures were different, people are different, the way they think are different. So at this point of time, what happens is, so understanding the business at the macro level has become very difficult for me. And at the same time, I realized it very soon and I started doing it. So if I had to go back, so there was a situation in our company, so where I would quote an example, like one company, there was a city which was the financial capital of that country. So there are 3 petroleum companies there. So the entire GDP of the country is dependent on them. So since there are 3 petroleum companies, they are into extraction and exploration. So there are 10 associated companies which are formed. So everybody is dependent on everybody is dependent on the 3 companies itself. So if the fund get blocks from one company, so everybody will get distracted. So this is the macroeconomic level that we need to think about. Not just about numbers, not just about the financial trends. One thing leads to another. So you have to understand this, where my operational level of working capital is there or not. And many finance intents that we need to look at it. So that actually, that perspective for me has given from this MBA college. So,
one thing more, touching upon your point only, one of the questions somebody asked, that two-wheeler is a very niche market, niche segment, and why you have built your career around that. I was contemplating over this. Is it a niche market? Lately, in these years of my experience, I have realized that yes, two-wheeler department, two-wheeler industry may seem, two-wheeler industry, two-wheeler financing, two-wheeler sales department it is a B2B industry, it may seem very niche, but you know what actually it is? It is actually a reflector of Indian economy, because it's just not a mode of transport, it is an economic mobility. It's somebody who purchases a two-wheeler, he is a first buyer. He is switching from cycle to two-wheeler, or he's getting a new job, or he's trying to give a bike to his daughter, to his son, to his father. So what he's doing is, if two-wheeler industry is running good, it is actually reflecting how Indian economy is going. If Indian economy is not doing good, two-wheelers might not be selling, because who will sell two-wheeler, or who will buy two-wheeler? So this is how it is interconnected. You touched upon macroeconomics, and this is how it is. How a small thing is controlling or becoming the larger picture of Indian economy. This is like this.
Again, it's the automobile industry is depending on one big factor in India, that's monsoon. Right?
Yeah.
The monsoon is good, the two-wheeler sales are good.
Absolutely.
So this I understood, anyway, as a avid reader. I used to get this kind of a news, but I was not actually understanding how exactly this thing happens. So I was working with a edtech company, and I was managing rural Maharashtra. There were overdues from one of the institutions where I went and met the owner of the institution, and I asked there are overdues and all. So he said, this year monsoon is very bad, I have not got my fees, right? So this was kind of an eye opener, right? So how these things are related, right? So that is something we learn from the books, but when we go in the industry and think on that, right?
These are the, as Economic Times says, these are the Cassandras of Indian economy, or these are the small things, these are the Cassandras of economy that which regulates Indian sector. And this, we have to realize all these things. We have to realize,
you just have to connect those dots from what you have learned in the MBA classroom, and then what exactly, you can relate upon the practical things.
And as somebody was saying, how think going back, we never realized all these things. We were naive, we were immature, or we were hardly thinkable about this thing. Why should we think? And it is good in a certain way, but at this time, at this juncture, we think that yes, this is how it is.
So if I have to go back, maybe I would not change much things. The career was good. The electives which I've chosen for finance and marketing was good, which gave me a hands-on experience. Like marketing and finance goes hands-on hand actually. So it gave me a broader perspective of how the business works and how the financial implications work on that. So if I had to change one thing, maybe in the internship I would have tried, if given an opportunity, maybe if I would have tried getting into fintech companies, maybe, because I resonate that maybe fintech is transforming the traditional way of finance which is going on. So I would definitely, if given a chance, I would try to get into that company and get that exposure too. So what about you?
Yeah, so as I told, my entire career is built on, the soft skills, right? Yeah. So during college days, I was heavily invested in hard skills. So I took up marketing, I took up finance also. I had dual specialization. In addition to that, I did additional courses into the corporate banking. I learned financial modeling. And most of the time I was thinking the soft skills that I have, right, are really good, right? But unless and until I entered into industry, right, that time I got to know, right, I'm pretty much, average on that front, right? So if I look back and, if I want to think what I can do better, right? So probably something like, the art of persuasion that I should have started practicing very early in my, MBA days, right? Another thing, art of storytelling, that is something very much important, right? I should have, started very early days. So, but yeah, over the years I have learned, right, hard skill is something that will, take you to the door. But soft skill is something that will, help you to, grow, right?
Correct, absolutely. In fact, what I think, if gone back to relive those days, I suppose, I was a avid reader. I most of my time used to go into libraries. So I suppose there are many more books which I would have read. And I always remember, and I will always say, if anybody wants to do an MBA, do whatever you want to do in campus, but most of your time you should spend in library. And like I used to read about HR, operations, everything, because I wanted to read too many things. In fact, there was a time I used to remember which book is kept where. People used to come, HR ki book, where is HR's book? I'll tell row number 13 in last bottom. But on a serious note, I suppose if relive, I'll do 2-3 things. I suppose I want to take this fintech, as you mentioned, FinAI domain. I want to learn more about those things. If given a chance to relive, I'll learn more about FinAI, fintech, GenAI domain, tech domain. Plus, one thing more which I wanted, which I would rather do, and I will always urge other people that do as many as subsidiary courses which are of your line of interest. It is not necessary that you will work in that section, in that genre, but at least you will, if you will do courses, Coursera is there, Udemy is there, There are Microsoft does, Google offers many courses because it will enhance your career. And because I had never had knowledge about those things back in those days, I would have done much. I only did one, which I did sitting in this very room. I used to read about 6-7 hours. I used to read about IABF course I have done, diploma in banking and finance I did in those years. It is majorly done by bankers, but non-bankers can also do. So I did those. I never knew much about that, but if given a chance, I would have done many more courses like that. It actually prepares you, makes your resume stronger, makes your thought process perspective, or even in fact, it may so happen that you have taken a core HR, and after when you start reading, you have start doing courses, you suddenly realize that, my God, my finance is my forte or marketing is my forte. So there's a chance. If you're in the first year, you are thinking that I will take HR, and suddenly you start reading about marketing and you are so fascinated that you have taken HR and marketing, or marketing and HR, or marketing. So given a chance, I suppose I'll be going more on those things.
So I'm Prashant. So I've finished my MBA from batch 19. So I did my specialization both in finance and marketing. And right after that, I got campus placement in Sadhguru Travel and Tourism. I was working in Congo for 2 years as an internal auditor. Then after 2 years, I came back to India. I transitioned my profile as finance controller, and I worked there for 2.5 years. And right now, I'm currently working with Accenture in FP&A role for ventures and acquisitions. How about you?
So I'm Bhushan. I passed out in 2013. That's batch 14. So I got placed into the strategic management group of Sahara India Parivar at that time. I worked into the business strategy. I was into the young leadership program. I was working closely with Subrata Roy's team at that time. And something, I felt, I'm directly coming into the boardroom and talking about lots of big things, right? That was something, was not very much, touching my brain and heart, right? And I thought, let's go into the ground, right? Understand the reality. And there, I thought, I should go into business development and sales, right? So I ventured into business development. Then it was around 10 years I did business development. Been to various industries like edtech, consulting, sold different kinds of products and solutions, mostly tech oriented. Lots of things, I take from this campus, lots of good memories, right? Connections, friends, lots of learnings. One more thing, which is very special to my heart, very close to me, right? I met my wife over here, right? She happened to be my batchmate, and yeah, that's how it's happened with me.